Hey, welcome. Reconsider. So, today I want to talk about a really fascinating scenario that's occurring on Mount Adams, which is a mountain in the Washington state area of USA. And it's quite well known in the ufology sort of community for its activity with UFOs. And it's purported to be part of inner Earth, like an actual entrance into inner Earth, which is hence why there's been so much kind of flying craft activity around that kind of area. Now, there's a gentleman who lives quite close by to the mountain called James Gilliland, who's a really fascinating character. And he's essentially an author, lecturer, minister, and counselor. And yeah, he set up a ranch next to the to Mount Adams called the ECETI Ranch. Now, he's a student of many sort of Eastern disciplines, and he's the founder of ECETI, which is it stands for Enlightened Contact with Extraterrestrial Intelligence. He also has a weekly radio show on a network called As You Wish Talk Radio. So you can listen to a lot of his shows on YouTube if you search him out. Essentially, a brief sort of history about him. He had a near-death experience during a drowning, which when he was a younger man, which completely changed his life direction really, and had started to have visions of this particular mountain in the area. And so he felt a strange draw to this kind of Mount Adams. So it was obviously like it was predestined. He was sort of going to end up settling there, which he did. He started to build like a healing center. But as he got more and more deeper into sort of consciousness and understanding the sort of nature, like multidimensional nature of like higher beings and extraterrestrials, he found his life sort of change direction even more. And apart from just becoming like a center for healing, also became a center for extraterrestrial sort of contact. I mean, hence why he then started ECETI as well. Now, Mount Adams is a stratovolcano and hasn't erupted for 1,000 years. It is still technically active, but it hasn't erupted for a very, very long time. Around that area is complete remote wilderness. And then also according to James, it's actually a vortex as well. So it's quite an interesting area for that. Now, a vortex apparently is where the veil between the realities is really thin. So we have our reality that we interact with on a daily basis, where we can hear, touch, and smell. But obviously, as we understand the sort of nature of reality, it's multidimensional. Now, these vortexes, the veil between the realities is a lot thinner, so there's a potential for a lot of entities, good and bad, to kind of seep into our reality. Now, James and his team have spent a lot of time for the last 30 years clearing the area of sort of negative entities, and this is something he does on a daily basis. So that the energy around that area is incredibly pure. Now, apart from sort of extraterrestrial kind of and UFO activity and potential inner Earth activity, um, strangely, there's supposed to be a lot of fairy and also Bigfoot activity, because these are entities that exist in other realities. So, and then orbs as well. A lot of orb activity. I've seen a lot of videos on YouTube of a lot of kind of flying orbs around that site as well. So it's obviously quite a special area due to the fact of this vortex. Now, the ECETI Ranch is generally open from around till April to November, and they have sort of events on sort of throughout the year. Now, one of the main events that they have is the ECETI conference, which happens in July. So that was only a couple of weeks ago, and it was during this conference that the opening, a rectangular opening, just appeared in broad daylight. And you can also see a lot of the videos of other researchers that were at the conference also kind of filming this opening. So they're all incredibly excited, including James, because he'd been there for nearly like 30 years, and even he'd never seen anything like that sort of open out on the mountain. And apparently, craft was seen flying into the opening as well. So it's incredibly exciting find. Now, sort of a week after the SETI conference, James Gillian was on Fade to Black, which is a radio show with Jimmy Church. And Jimmy Church also kind of was at the conference for the first time and had an amazing spiritual awakening and a lot of kind of contact experiences. And so a lot of the show, when James was talking to Jimmy, was about the ECETI conference and also about the opening. And on Jimmy's show, that James was talking about the fact that they've even had remote viewers to the ranch, and they've been able to sort of remote view into the mountain and have said that, yeah, they can sort of see some kind of like a hangar, like a spaceport for all this craft that are kind of flying into it. And James has said previously before that, you've never been able to see any kind of opening into the mountain, because he's perceived it as being like some kind of cloaking technology, or obviously craft able to sort of dematerialize and sort of actually fly through the mountain into the inner sort of area of it. So hence why you've never really seen an opening before. So it's fascinating that you've got this rectangular opening that's appeared now. And actually he said during the show that after the ECETI conference, another opening is opened up next to the rectangular version, and it's more kind of circular in origin. And James also talked about the history of the mountain, about how it stretches back potentially for thousands of years. And even the Native Americans knew about it, because they used to leave their sick or injured or dying up the mountain, and they would be then taken into the inner earth area and then just appear a week later sort of completely healed. And then this kind of stopped as humans became to sort of grow in sophistication, because obviously then they became a danger potentially to the inhabitants of inner earth. So this kind of like healing for Native Americans unfortunately kind of ended. But also sort of during the show, they were sort of discussing that if you sort of look through binoculars or a telescope, you can kind of see like Buddha-like carvings into the side of the mountain, and they're quite old. And again, it's just like, what are sort of Buddhas doing on the side of a mountain? This is like Eastern kind of iconography, and this is like North America. And according to James, that actually around that area, a lot of artifacts from all around the globe, like quite old artifacts, have been found around sort of Mount Adams. So what it sort of points towards, that actually this mountainous area has been known about for a long time, potentially thousands of years, and has been potentially like a point of pilgrimage for people around, spiritual people around the world, hence why they found all these artifacts. So yeah, it just adds to sort of the mysticism of the entire area. So yeah, I'm really excited to sort of learn more. They were talking about in the show, because obviously the number one thing people say about this opening is like, why don't you get a drone up there, fly one up? And but they were sort of starting to talk about the mechanics of it and the scale of the mountain, and it's quite deceptive when you sort of see a picture. It looks like it's right close to the ranch where they had the ECETI, but in actual fact the ranch is like 14 miles away, and the mountain is really big, and it's kind of remote wilderness. There's no kind of real easy way to gain access to the mountain, so there's a lot of trekking over quite treacherous terrain, volcanic scree, and obviously the open is quite high up the mountain, and it's got you're having to traverse sheer sort of scree volcanic rock, so that makes it quite difficult. And sort of normal commercially available drones only have a range of about 4 miles, so it would be really difficult to be able to fly a drone up there to sort of see this opening and what's actually potentially inside. So they were talking on the show, potentially teaming up with Jimmy Church to, maybe approach kind of more commercial industrial drone owners to see if they can maybe get like a larger one with a larger range that they'd be able to potentially see what's in the opening. But there's no guarantees that they'd be able to see anything, because according to James, there's been, the powers that be elite do know about Mount Adams and how special it is, and have potentially sort of launched covert operations trying to gain access to the mountains. And that hasn't ended well. Like, they've been repelled quite sort of significantly, obviously due to the match of the technology. They just can't gain entrance to the mountain at all. And this has been a similar story for James throughout his whole career around the ECETI ranch, and the fact that he's been intimidated a lot by the military industrial complex. They send sort of black helicopters down there, sort of weird electrostatic weapons are being sort of shot at his house, which kind of scrambles his brain. So yeah, he's had I think covert kind of elite circles know the power of Mount Adams very well. But yeah, I mean, just really interesting story. I can't wait for more information to sort of come out to see what happens, whether they are able to fly some kind of drone to kind of see what's going on inside. I mean, obviously kind of there's a real tangible sense that kind of disclosure is kind of ramping up at the moment. So maybe that's kind of part of it. Maybe this is part of that kind of disclosure. So maybe this is why this entranceway is opened up into Mount Adams. Who knows? But if I hear any more information, of course, I will post it on YouTube. But for now, thank you very much for joining me. Bye bye.